Thanks for rising up. I'm Dawn Ennis. Happy Pride. I'm here in Blueback Square where Pride will take place this Saturday. That's June 25th. Yep, this whole area, Blueback Square in West Hartford, Connecticut, is about to be taken over by the allies and members of the LGBTQ community. And it's not just one day. This event is a year in the planning, and this year is going to be bigger than ever. So we're really excited, and we hope you'll come out and join us. And if you missed it, come out next year, because what we really need more than anything is for people to show support. For people to show support of who we are, of who we love, and why we want to just exist like everybody else. We don't want special rights. We're not looking for anything other than the right to love, the right to live, and to be who we are. I mean, Pride is all month long and should be all year long, but this seems like an especially difficult Pride month. More than ever, LGBTQ folks are under attack, not just in Connecticut, but around the world, across the United States, in many places where we have rights, like Connecticut. I've had to confront people who deny the insurrection. I've had my ability to use the bathroom that matches my gender identity challenged. It's been a crazy, crazy year, and it's not over yet. But the reason I wanted to sit down with Governor Ned Lamont was to pose some questions that affect our community and to talk to him about things like inflation and gas prices, which affects everyone. So I'm very grateful to the governor to finally spare some time. What happens is, more than often, the politicians are too busy running for office instead of talking to their constituents. But not Ned. Governor Lamont was able to actually sit down and have a conversation. Well, I couldn't have done this interview without the able assistance of my 3 children, who are all out LGBTQ, Sean, Sophie, and Leaf. So I'm very grateful to them for helping me, for running the cameras, so to speak, iPhones, and for everyone at West Hartford Community Interactive, WHCI, for making the time for a special Rise Up episode. Now, without further ado, here he is, Governor Ned Lamont, Governor of Connecticut. Governor Lamont, thank you for being on Rise Up. You're the second governor I get to interview. I interviewed your predecessor on this show.
Good for Dan.
I'm very excited about talking about Pride. This is Pride Month. Tell me, as someone who's a cisgender man, who's a straight man, does Pride mean anything to you as the governor of the state of Connecticut, of all people?
I don't know if you were at this last event. I said I want to make sure that Connecticut is the most welcoming state in the country, the most welcoming state in the world. And be that sexual identity, race, color, creed, I don't care. Come to Connecticut. We want you here in Connecticut. I want you to prosper here in Connecticut. I think that's the best right for each and every individual, to be able to live life to their fullest, without compromise, without anybody casting aspersions. And it's the best interest of the state as well. You get the best and the brightest here and let them grow to their full potential.
You've done a lot for trans people in Connecticut. You've also grown in your support of transgender athletes. Your opponent is considering that if he was elected, he would make it so that trans athletes couldn't compete fairly. Any opinion about that?
Yeah, get the politicians out of the way. Stop, bullying these kids. I think the schools and the kids and the leagues are being able to figure this out. I got so mad at Betsy DeVos. Betsy DeVos was Secretary of Education under President Trump. I had met her a couple of times, and I called her up and I said, Mrs. DeVos, 6 feet of social distancing, during the last days of COVID is making me impossible for me to open the schools. I wish you could do a little bit about that, because otherwise we can't get kids in full time. And the next week she sued me because of transgender kids. Let our kids be kids. Get out of the way, politicians.
Everyone I've talked to has said, thank God for Governor Lamont during COVID. You were the right man at the right time. You saved lives. Do you think of yourself that way? Because I think it's really a credit to your administration that we're in the position we're in right now with COVID.
We had the best hospitals, the most amazing nurses and doctors. I listened to them. They led the way. Other states and frankly, Washington, D.C. did it a very different way. I'd like to think that we got hit hard those first 3 or 4 months. But after that, between testing and then masks and then vaccinations, our fatality rate per capita went this way and Florida's went that way. We went 2 very different directions. I'd like to think, thanks to the people of Connecticut, a lot of lives were saved.
Healthcare is the issue we're talking about, and you just signed a law that's going to help people when the Supreme Court, it's not an if anymore, I'm pretty sure the Supreme Court is about to change the law that has been standing for years and years on reproductive rights. And you've enabled Connecticut to be a safe haven for folks, both women and for non-binary and trans people who may be pregnant.
I get a lot of emails and free comments from people. Comes in on social media. Sometimes it's a Braveheart yelling freedom, as if we're stomping on people's freedoms. Stomping on people's freedoms are a lot of these politicians who are telling, in this case, women when they have to start a family, when they can't start a family, setting those rules. I just think it's outrageous. I would let a woman and her doctor make those choices. I support Roe v. Wade. I don't want any compromises to Roe v. Wade. I think it's worked pretty well. My opponent is still making up his mind and talking about adding a lot of restrictions to Roe v. Wade, which is not the right way to go.
So if people come to Connecticut to secure a legal free abortion, you're still supporting that because that's what the law says that you've signed.
The law says, it'll stay legal and free in this state as long as I'm your governor, and we've got a rule in place to make that true. And just as importantly, if somebody from Texas comes to Connecticut and seeking their full reproductive freedom right here, including the right to choose, the right to an abortion, nobody from Texas is going to prosecute them here. We're going to protect their legal rights.
I noticed that Tucker Carlson made a statement that got you pretty angry about guns, because he said the gun laws, red flag laws, are unconstitutional. And you had a counter argument to him.
I had a counter argument. More importantly, he was saying, I don't think these gun safety laws work. I think it's just more government overreach. And I just wish he would pay attention. Our number of shootings, our number of murders are much lower than they are in any of those states that don't have the same gun law. I mean, half, 1/3 as much as Georgia and Texas and places like that. And the red flag laws, talk to moms. I mean, talk about letting a mom be a mom or dad. They're saying, my kid is a danger to himself. And unfortunately, it's often to himself. I don't think they should have a gun. And I'd like that, you go to court, you adjudicate it, you have your, due process. But I think we've saved dozens and dozens of lives by being a little more careful on that front. And I'd like to think that it'd be a lot less likely what happened in Uvalde down there in Texas to have happened here. I think our red flag laws would have made a difference. And I guarantee you our cops would not have been standing in the hallway when somebody was shooting in a classroom.
Absolutely. I was at Sandy Hook. I was the first one from ABC on the scene when Sandy Hook happened. And I looked in the eyes of some of those moms when they learned that their first graders weren't coming home. I have a first grader, now 15. I imagine that when you meet people who have been victims of gun violence, that must hit you right here, because it does me.
It hit me 2 ways. One, I couldn't stand the attack on that school in Texas. It was so similar to what had happened at Sandy Hook 10 years earlier. I was so saddened that you felt like you had made so little progress between then and now. And I was really touched by a number of folks from Newtown and Sandy Hook, including the mayor, said, reach out to the governor of Texas. If any of those kids down in Uvalde would like to talk to the kids in Sandy Hook, now they're in high school, they'd be happy to share those experiences. Wow. Because it's a tragic fraternity they share in common.
I just hope it never happens again, but it just keeps going. Those are the 3 topics we agreed to talk about. I'm going to ask you one last question, and I'm going to let you go. What everyone's talking about, inflation, gas prices, and everything. Do you have any message for Connecticut folks? I just want to know if there's something you want to say to those folks, because, there's only so much you can do, right?
Yeah, you're getting slammed. Middle class, working families, they're getting slammed. It's happening all over the world. It's happening in India. It's happening in Germany. It's happening in France. But more broadly, it's happening in Connecticut. And I hear about it every day. So I can't solve for inflation, but I can do little things to make your life a little more affordable and easier to live. So we do have, the biggest tax cut in the history of the state, not focused on, millionaires, not eliminating the income tax for that. It's focused on middle-class folks and working families who otherwise are having a hard time. I got free bus service. I cut the gas tax. We're cutting your car tax. We are ending tax on your pension if you're a senior citizen just having a hard time getting by. A child tax credit. If anybody here is under the age of 18, $250. Register with DRS. You'll get that child tax credit August. I don't want it a year from now. I want it now so we can make a difference. I know what people are going through, and I think Connecticut's doing its best to make it more affordable for you.
Thank you, Governor.
You're doing the great work. Thank you.
I try. Thank you.
And your photographers are really professional.
Thank you to Governor Ned Lamont and his staff for making him available, especially Max Reese. I hope everyone has a happy Pride. By the way, that was filmed in Bloomfield, where they did their own Pride flag raising right after we had our meeting. I wanted to thank all of our viewers at RiseUP for continuing to watch, continue to support WHCI. Like, share, and subscribe. And if you have any questions, go to Rise Up with Dawn, where I'd be happy to talk to you about anything, including what we should talk about when we meet next. We'll be back in the fall. It's just such a crazy time. And all I can ask is, if you hear somebody make a joke, if you hear somebody do a slur, stand up for us. And if you are part of our community, don't give up. We're going to win. You know why? Because we're in the right. Anyway, thank you for rising up. I'm Dawn Ennis. Happy Pride.